Hello, I'm Fu Cru.
I'm Berlin.
And I'm Ninja Master Phil.
We are Fu Cru. Today we're reviewing the Ip Man biopic, Ip Man, The Final Fight, starring Anthony Wong. The plot, for what it is essentially just a series of events involving Ip Man and his students and following the life of a man as he ages in Hong Kong during a period of transition. He has to deal with rival schools, cancer, the attractions of a beautiful woman, local gangs, and the main focus seems to be more on his responsibilities to his students, essentially playing a surrogate father figure to a varied myriad of unstable and or desperate people. Ninja Master Phil, your opinions?
Well, this one's kind of interesting. And the name, to be honest, is a little deceiving. Ip Man, The Final Fight. It sounds really epic and straight up fist punching and crazy shenanigans. That's really not what you get, though in this instance that's not a bad thing. The movie opens with a narration by Ip Man's son, talking about living with his father, and at that point you really get a vibe that this is going to go a very different way than you... Like, I honestly was expecting something completely different when I started, but was very, very, very happily surprised with what I got, because unlike a lot of the other Ip Man biopics, this one actually acts like one. It addresses important things in his life. You know, people that he met and has lost and has gained, and how they have all kind of come to affect each other. It's just a side of Ip Man we have not seen. Even with Donnie Yen's, top-notch acting in the two movies he was in, we don't see the home side of Ip Man. We just see the unstoppable badass.
Because yeah, they're just straight up kung fu movies. Like you said, this one is
actually a biopic.
Yeah, it's a kung fu biopic that like, don't get me wrong, there are fights, it makes its fight quota fine, but it's a movie that is focused on telling the story of a man.
Yeah, it's a cinematic movie that has kung fu in it. It's not a kung fu movie.
And on that note, the fights are really good when we get them. Apparently only one of the actors actually in the movie is a kung fu genre big player.
Yeah.
But they do a really good job making it still work with people who normally wouldn't be as comfortable in this type of role. Like Anthony Wong plays kind of more of a subdued in his physicality, Ip Man, like with the fight on the piece of paper. But it ends up working extremely well because you see the deep mystic martial arts side of him, as well as the very human man out of place vibe you get from the rest of the movie.
Right. When I heard he was Man for this film, I was a little kind of mad because I've seen him in action movies before, and don't get me wrong, as a drama actor, he is great, but a lot of the action movies he's been in have not been so. But in this one, I think the effort put forth by all the people. Eric Singh plays a rival teacher who does really well. Like, all the fight choreography and fighting was really good, especially that most of these actors are known for triad movies, like cop movies and drama movies. The guy who plays Dragon, Xin Xiong, he's known for some of like Sue Hark roles, villain roles like that. He's the only actor that I recognize from like kung fu movies. But the choreography doesn't look like a bunch of dramatists trying to do kung fu. It actually is very solid.
And actually, on that note, like normally, especially when you see actors not familiar with like a martial art or even an action-heavy role, that's when you really see the jump-cutting fight scenes. You just don't get that.
Well, you get... It avoided both of them. Scenes where, like, if you need a good example of that, like, just see the remake of the A-Team with Liam Neeson, who can't fight, so you go...
Shake it and cut! Shake it and cut!
If you can't see him moving, you just have to assume he's fighting, because that's what the movie told us he was doing. The second kind is, like, that way, way too choreographed, like what I call dance fighting, where like you can actually take the fight and just play a techno music in the background. It's a music video all of a sudden. See the prequel trilogy of Star Wars, like every single lightsaber fight, like just play it, do it. I dare you. You not believing me right now? I dare you.
Anything by Zhang Yimou, like Hero, House of Flying Daggers, Curse of the Golden Flower, all have that dance fighting vibe to it.
Which has its place, killed what they're going for in this.
Yeah. No, it's excellent. They went.
I would argue the other Ip Man biopic that we reviewed, that's a lot of what killed it. I mean, this movie is trying to be a quote-unquote realistic bio and gives us realistic choreography to go along with it. I mean, yeah, it's stylized, it's Hong Kong still, but it's not something... It looks good, it doesn't distract.
Yeah, what you're saying is if you found out, like from a tidbit like on the wiki page, that like Anthony Wong woke up every day at 3 in the morning so he could practice Wing Chun, like, you'd be like...
Yeah, one, because of Anthony Wong's general level of professionalism, I believe that, and two, he does look that good in this movie. It's, yeah, I will say this, because it sounds like we're saying it's like almost documentarian style. It's not, like, all the tropes are there. You have the big showdown at the end with the rival gang lord, which, by the way, involves, as much as I love seeing one man against insurmountable odds, just like whooping ass, Anthony Wong's entrance into the walled city to get at the main villain is pretty much him and his students just forming a posse of invincible badassness.
If you've ever played R-Type, when you've got the little thing spinning around your ship that just kill everything, that's pretty much what it
has
was.
R-Type.
It was that in real life.
It was great. Like, people were like, I'm going to touch Ip Mann. You're not going to touch Ip Mann.
They did a they did a drive-by with Kung Fu.
Yeah, pretty much.
And you'll know, just watch the movie, you'll know what we're talking about when you see it. Like, there are people who are like, I'm going to get him.
Nope. Some of the character choices in this movie do get a little weird. Early on in the movie, Ip Man meets this effectively lounge singer woman that they just dubbed Northern Lady, and there's kind of this weird pseudo-romance going on, of which his students seem to have no problem with at this point. But then it gets to the point in the movie where Ip Man's wife dies.
Which is actually covered in this one.
Which is actually addressed in this one.
Not just a cue card.
Not a cue card, like there's funeral and shit. You'll see.
Because no matter where you are in the world, wife dying is usually a pretty traumatic event.
Yeah. But then, for some reason, after this event, his students just, anytime this woman is around, his students become these complete bastards. For some reason, while he was still married, that's okay. Now that she's dead, though, fuck you. Apparently is their mindset. And that just kind of left me with... Like, they clearly were trying to, I think, make drama in a movie that they're kind of like, we don't have enough for some reason. Though they clearly did. There's plenty of enough other shit going on.
We focus grouped with a bunch of Twilight fans, and we haven't hit the drama level for this movie, according to them. So we're going to throw in nonsense related to the romantic entanglements.
Luckily, it doesn't really focus on that.
Yeah, exactly. It's just
their romance focuses more on their level of companionship than anything else.
It's just a thing that comes up, and it just feels really out of place. Yeah, that would be my final take on that. Anything else, Brolin?
Yeah, that actually feeds really well into my take on this movie. This movie is an excellent example of modernity and traditionality clashing. When you read the industrialization periods of history, England and America get kind of the bold letter words in those points, but it's like it's not fair to put industrialization in a specific timeline. People forget that like China was so far back, just even 100 years ago. Like it exploded. Like I mean, you're talking about they went from straight sword and horseback fighting to sophisticated like military structure and everything, and like they had cars and you pick up at Hong Kong in this rapid period of time. Another thing this movie does well, I get so tired, quick caveat, so tired of like when a movie goes back in the past and like everything already looks old. Even though it was new at the time, like you see,
the exception being the walled city, because that actually was a ramshackle shithole since the beginning.
Yeah, but I mean, like it has that amazing shot. Like the first shot in the movie, I knew I was in for a good ride, at least aesthetically, because it's a shitty Hong Kong street from like today, and then it just magically transforms into like a pristine boardwalk from like the cleaner. Like you are getting transported by the son's recounting of his father back to a time when Ip Man, the legend, roamed the world. And it sets the tone really, really well to go into this struggle because, and to go back to the modernity versus traditionality, like, so he takes on students and they pay his bills and everything, but it turns into kind of this, he's this extra relative. We mentioned that he's kind of a surrogate father figure to some of them, and it takes on an even more familial role than you see in a lot of other kung fu movies, because usually it's like a master who's running a much more formal school where it's like a military boot camp. Like you sleep there, you eat there, you pay your dues. The second you can't, or the second you offend master enough times, you're out. Like,
if you're lucky, you're kicked out.
If you're lucky, you're kicked out.
Otherwise, he's taking both your arms and then sending you astray in the desert.
But this is like, he's teaching on the rooftop of one of their buildings. He at first they can't find a room for him before he gets, and they don't know he's sick yet, so they think this is okay. Like they let him like sleep outside, and there's this really touching moment where they like, get him all the extra blankets and stuff like that, because it's warmer in Hong Kong than like northern China. So I mean, like, that's okay, right? Let the doddering old man sleep up on top of the roof. Like,
yeah,
I mean, what else are they gonna do at the moment? I'm not criticizing him on that point. It's just like there's this familial nature.
It's very much like if George Bailey taught kung fu. Like, he's poor, but he's rich in friends. Like, everyone in his life cares about him, and they demonstrate that by helping him subsist in this kind of state he's in.
Like, if it weren't, I almost don't want to say this next thought because it makes it takes it the wrong way. But the only way I can think of it is that he's like the shared car for the group. Like, everybody uses him to learn kung fu and for fatherly wisdom and like, what should I do? And everybody throws in gas money, you know.
Fair enough. Like, yeah, like everyone chips in on taking care of him. He is, as much as he is kind of the de facto patriarch or leader of their little group / community, he's also kind of, I hate to say charity case, but pretty much.
No, that you get that feeling that, like,
yeah, they take care of, like, later in the movie, he actually does start making some real money, though I don't think we ever see him with a proper school. But he actually starts giving private lessons to people, and the narration says at that point he got criticized for doing it for money, which, because apparently bills just pay themselves, and the fact that he was pretty much totally destitute for the first 3/4 of the movie doesn't matter.
Yeah, and you see, and beyond that, not to get stuck on that point for too long, but again, the modern versus the traditional, you see modern China insert itself in the students' lives again, where like the students want to, or some of his students are factory workers who want better worker rights, and so they start a riot. But then the police officer, who's had this long-standing tradition in China of like bribery and like basically taking money for efficient police working, has been part of the culture, and now he doesn't know if he should take bribes or if he should let his fellow student go. And you see this other cop like fighting for his soul, and he doesn't know where the new lines are, because there's people who work with the British, and there's people who work for the drug dealers, and there's people who work outside the law. And might I add another quick caveat, this is the first like England is running China movie that was very subtle in it. Like, he's supposed to be there because the British did run things when Ip Man was alive. It's like he's just part of the scenery or another side character that's important to convey what China was like at that time. It's not, it doesn't have the movie doesn't have a chip on its shoulder about the fact that he's a British guy. He's just like, there's a British guy.
Yeah, the British occupation and or ownership of Hong Kong at the time is touched upon, but it's not really dwelled upon any sort of negative aspect. Though now that we've brought up Officer Tang numerous times, I will point out Jordan Chan, who some of you might remember from The Young and the Dangerous, huge triad actor, as this cop kind of battling for his soul and also trying to learn his place in the world, because the tradition thing, like Brolin was just talking about, has him pretty much trying to balance the traditional role of student like sibling responsibilities. In other words, one of his fellow students gets arrested for the riot, he should do anything in his power to get them out, but he's also trying to act as a modern police officer, where that kind of thing is usually frowned upon, trying to get your friends out of jams using your authority. So, and a lot of his kind of battle for his soul is actually tied up in him trying to balance being part of the kung fu world of tradition while still being a modern police officer with a whole different set of expectations, whether they be foreign or otherwise. Like, his balance on that is something that bothers him, and a lot of his scenes with Ip Man are him just pretty much asking for advice because he feels very lost. And that's what I like about this movie. As much as it has, like, It has all the standard tropes, like it has a lion dance fight.
Further proof that's the new Wong Fei-hung.
Yeah, proving once
True.
Yeah, in case Ip Man equal new Wong Fei-hung hasn't hit home yet. Yeah, he's now had a lion dance fight, so it has the lion dance fight. It has rival teachers, gangs, all that stuff. You know, as opposed to showing like this is how badasses handle it. It shows it as like how does someone who has all these responsibilities to his family and to his extended family of students deal with these problems. And that's what makes it really stand out. At this point, it is my favorite Ip Man movie.
Final takes.
Rating 8 out of 10. My thing is the melodrama tends to kill the pacing a little bit at times. I do love everyone's performance. This is definitely, as much as I love Donnie Yen and all his work and being the genesis of this trend, I will say this is probably my favorite Ip Man movie just because it's really nice to see a kung fu movie that focuses on, first, the teacher, who's always the most interesting character in any kung fu story anyway, and two, focuses on what that role means. I mean, that's a different angle to hit it from than I've seen in a very long time. And pretty much everything we've touched on. The choreography is really good without being ridiculously over choreographed, for lack of a better term. Pardon my redundancy. Everyone just brings in top-notch performances. I love seeing Gordon Chan in something again. His police officer is great, and he's a good actor, and I haven't seen him in a while. It's just a good movie with everything in it. It's just really solid and top-notch. I'm 8 out of 10, definitely.
I'm going to give it an 8 out of 10 too. This is a very different 8 out of 10 than the 8 out of 10 that Buddhist Palm got. Whereas Buddhist Palm got me there on pure entertainment value, riotous positive energy that you just can't hate in spite of its flaws. This is a well-earned 8 out of 10. It's an excellent movie. The parts that are problematic, you will go, that was kind of lame. But the nice thing about it is that there's so few, far between, and kind of like just pinched in there. Like there's scenes where they take time out of the day to explain that like it's a novelty there for them to eat food on plates, or like going to the dentist and things like that. And it's like you go, oh, what was that doing in the movie? And it's like, don't worry, you won't remember it. Like that'll be a part you just let go, and you'll be left with the nice, glowing 8 out of 10 movie that's different from any other Ip Man thing that's out there. It's like we said all the way back in the Grandmaster review. The Grandmaster wanted to be this movie, but
it wanted to be it so bad. It
got lost along the way.
Okay, at the end of the day, I've got to give this movie an 8 out of 10. It's a great movie. It's a very, very enjoyable watch. The cinematography is excellent. The action choreography is solid and believable. There's nothing inherently really wrong with this movie. The problems I do kind of bring up, though, are the title does kind of sucker you in a bit. Like when Brolin's like, Fun Su was like, I've got the new Ip Man movie, The Final Fight. I'm like, that sounds badass. Let's do this shit. And then that opening monologue happens. You're like, oh wait, no, I'm in for a very different ride than I thought. So it is still hard to move past that initial, huh? There are a few points where it does start to drag. Like, there are some kind of oddball things. Like, he goes to the dentist at one point was kind of unnecessary. Some of the dinner scenes stretch a bit long. They
get melodramatic.
Yeah, they get,
really
like, unnecessarily... Well, like, yeah, the family and the children thing. Yeah. You'll see. It gets... And the melodrama kind of falls into my issue with the students apparently hating Northern Lady for no reason at some point. They get a bit too melodramatic, and that does kind of pull back my enjoyment a bit. But then something cool happens. I'm like, that was awesome. So it's still very easy to sit through all the way. Still a great watch. Just if you're really tired, maybe go for one of the more action-packed ones. So we're the Fu Cru. Don't forget to subscribe, like, and comment. If you have any particular requests, we do listen once in a while. We've got a bit of a full document. If there's anything you want to see, let us know.
Don't be afraid to hit us on Facebook either.
Oh yeah, now on Facebook, Fu Cru Reviews. Facebook.com/Fu Cru Reviews.